Well, the Celtics offseason shakeup continues. First, Danny Ainge steps down. Brad Stevens leaves his coaching position. He moves upstairs to the front office. Then this morning, if you're a late riser, maybe a Celtics fan woke up to a blockbuster trade that sees Kemba Walker on the move and an old friend in Al Horford coming back to Boston. Here are the details. The Celtics are sending Kemba Walker this year's number 16 overall pick and a second rounder in 2025 to OKC for Al Horford, center Moses Brown, and a second-round pick in 2023. When you calculate Kemba's salary and Horford's contract, the Celtics save about $9 million in salary this year. As for next year, though, Horford's guaranteed $14.5 million in the final year of his deal, and it is fully guaranteed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just the beginning. If anyone thinks Kemba Walker is the first and last player to get shipped out of town, I think you're nuts. Stevens made it very clear during his introductory press conference as the new president of basketball operations that he knew what was working and what wasn't. And there were rumors before he got promoted that Stevens wanted more say in personnel issues, suggesting he didn't love all of his personnel. I'm not sure how much better or worse the Celtics got today, but I do know they've wanted to move on from Kemba for a while. I also know this trade doesn't vault the C's into the NBA championship conversation for next year, which tells me, because that's what they want, that this move is just the tip of the iceberg, and I'm not sure anyone other than Jason Tatum is untouchable. I am convinced that today was just the beginning.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're with you now on the StreamYard, platform. Unfortunately, it appears there was some sort of technical difficulties on the Blog Talk Radio site that unfortunately canceled our radio show. And so because of it, we ended up having to switch to the video chat service. So we're going to try to do this similar to the way we do it on Blog Talk Radio, you guys, and possibly play some of the audios we were going to play on Blog Talk Radio during the platform today on this show. So guys, let's start where we are, or continue where we kind of left off. So again, the trade ends up being Kemba Walker, a 2021 first-round pick, that's this year's pick, 16th overall, as well as a 2025 second-round pick going to the Oklahoma City Thunder. And in exchange, the Celtics get Al Horford, center Moses Brown, and a 2023 second-round pick in exchange. So, of course, as we mentioned earlier, in this case, this is something that we were just about to say on the radio show before the show abruptly closed us out all of a sudden in this situation. And that's where, like I said, technical difficulties, which kind of got all of us a little bit upset. NBA insider Keith Smith giving Celtic fans a little bit more insight on the contract situation for Al Horford, since there seems to be a lot of confusion, as he put it. He goes, seeing a lot of confusion on how the Al Horford contract works. His 2021-22, which of course is next season, contract, $27 million is fully guaranteed. The 2022-2023 season, which is of course the following season, so 2 seasons from now, his contract is $26.5 million, but only $14.5 million of that money is fully guaranteed right now, which is exactly the information I gave everybody in the group yesterday when I gave my thoughts on the trade and was trying to explain why I like it at this point. If Horford's team, of course that being the Boston Celtics right now, make the NBA Finals next season, then the guaranteed money jumps up from $14.5 million to $19.5 million. If they were to win the NBA Finals, that number would then go all the way up to the full $26.5 million being guaranteed, with all of that being on 110.23, in this case being full on full on 110.23. So meaning, if the Celtics in this situation win the NBA championship, $26.5 million guaranteed, all of a sudden the Celtics can't really waive him unless they're going to basically split that $26.5 million over 3 seasons. If the Celtics make the finals but lose, it's $19.5 million that they could waive him for, and basically have to split that $19.5 million over 3 seasons. If the Celtics waive him without making the finals, it's $14.5 million, as I explained, that would get split over 3 seasons. But the Celtics, no matter what, would have to waive him before January 10th, 2023. If not, the contract of $26.5 million automatically becomes fully guaranteed And after that point, you have no choice but to pay him that full amount at that point, unless you're going to waive him after that. And then, you're stuck having to basically get the 26.5 million after that, being stretched over off 3 years. So in this case, you guys, we now have our fourth member with Kevin Dixon. So you guys, again, we're gonna all give our thoughts in this situation on this, and then, like I said, at one point we will take an audio break, as I'm hoping these audios will work with the way I was just doing it. So hopefully, all our people that are watching did get to hear that first audio. But again, I said pretty much I like the decision by Brad Stevens to go through with this. Not only because you got out of that contract with Kemba Walker, knowing that you were going to be paying him over $70 million over the next two seasons, and of course you can't guarantee that knee is going to get healthy anytime soon in this case, but because this gives the Celtics now two different options over the next two seasons to decide. Obviously, you're going to keep Horford next season because his contract is fully guaranteed. You're not going to basically stretch and waive him, knowing that that's fully guaranteed. But after next season, if Horford, in my opinion, plays well, you guys, next season, and shows he still has something in the tank and he can still be like a thorn in the side, as I said in my post, to guys like Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo, knowing those are the type of guys that we couldn't have anybody on this team this year to stop. And that was kind of the one reason why we felt the moment we played Milwaukee or Philly in the playoffs, you were going to get beat by them. Then it's obvious you might as well keep him until the end of his contract, regardless of how much it is. And then after that, let him go. But if Horford plays the way he did in Philadelphia, where he looked like crap, I think many people would agree in this situation, then you might as well waive him. Waive him after the next season is over in this case, and get that extra $10 million back, after next season, and put that $10 million towards somebody else, bringing, somebody else to this team. The contract, if everybody looks at the situation with the contracts we now have in terms of who's lining up to be free agent after next season, Horford would be basically expiring if you let him go in this case. You would be getting him to leave around the same time that guys like Marcus Smart will be leaving, Tristan Thompson will be leaving, Langford will be expiring, Neesmith will be expiring, Grant Williams will be expiring. So, Brad Stevens, as long as he doesn't screw things up right now this summer by signing a bunch of guys to long-term deals, he could make the Celtics a big-time player in the free agency market for next summer, in this case, if he doesn't basically screw it up this summer by wasting all the cap space that could be available for that point. So I like it because of that. It gives him two separate options compared to basically being stuck on one path. So we'll now go to the rest of you guys. Get your thoughts. Again, ladies and gentlemen, you can always give your thoughts by commenting in the comment section, and we'll put your comments up from time to time. I know we have one comment already from Jamie O'Donnell in this case. Hopefully I said that right, pronounced it right, saying, I think it's a good trade. We will see in this situation. So I want to thank you for your comments in this situation. So it seems like you agree with me. You like the trade at this point. So Igor, we'll go to you now in this situation and get your thoughts on what you think.
Thank you, Daniel. Of course, it's a good trade. And first of all, I want to see, I want to say that I agree with Jamie that it is good trade. And we all saw this coming, Kemba was the first one to be traded sooner or later. I didn't expect him to be traded on June 18th. Brad Stevens surprised me. And by the way, we discussed about who made a trade and who didn't make a trade. Listen, guys, if Danny Ainge is here, I think that there is absolutely no chance that he would surrender the first round pick for offloading player. Practically we traded Kemba Walker for Al Horford. Also, we kind of traded Moses Brown for number 16 pick. We traded away 16 pick and we get in return the Moses Brown. So you can look this way. We traded Kemba Walker for Al Horford. We traded Moses Brown for 16th pick, and we exchanged the second round picks. I'm not interested too much in the second round picks, but about Moses Brown, what he showed the previous season, and it was pretty much solid, not consistent, but solid. And we remember that he defeated us against, he shined. He had like 20 rebounds in the first half alone against the Celtics. And what I saw from Moses Brown, I think that, for example, if Moses Brown was drafted by the Celtics from the position number 16th, I would say that he had a successful season. Now, why we did this trade, and let me check. Of course, yeah, just Jamie said it's a good trade. So the Celtics had to feel Walker would not return to form by the next season, and they never addressed the question of whether he would be able to play in back-to-back games, 2021, 22nd. While the club spent all season preparing Walker to be healthy for the playoffs, he missed the final 2 games of the Brooklyn series with a bone bruise in the same left knee, unrelated to previous injury. Durability was the factor, and perhaps the Celtics would have been more patient if Walker had not been owned 73 millions over the next 2 years, if he opts into the finals year in the contracts of 2022-23. So he had like 73 millions in the next 2 years. That was too much salary for the Celtics to bear with a player, with uncertainty. And there are beneficial financial benefits to the Kemba Walker departure and arrival of Al Horford. The quick thoughts are it's Walker for Horford trade, and the Celtics got 9 millions in 2021 cap flexibility. That is really important. I will return to that point. Also, like I said, the second part of the trade, number 16 pick for Moses Brown. So now that's pretty good. Brown is good Robert Williams insurance, injury and contract wise. And number 3, Boston has more cap tax flexibility in 2022 too. Now the Celtics have 9 millions in salary between Kemba Walker and Al Horford trade. Now Horford's salary in 2022-23 is partially guaranteed, like Dennis said, which gives the Celtics bunch of options. We can waive him during the process. Essentially, we have a couple of roads, and what is the most important, the big picture, that path to the Celtics to add the third star is much easier. And do not overlook the bigger picture. So the Celtics are doing this to clear the cap easier in the next season potentially, or the guaranteed $500,000 in 2021-22 of Moses Brown to make that trade work. Also, the Celtics created 6.9 millions trade exception, and Moses Brown contract is going like this. In 2021-22, 1.7 millions non-guaranteed. Now we heard we guaranteed 0.5 millions. In 2022-23, Moses Brown is having 1.8 millions non-guaranteed. there are trigger dates to that contract. And third season, 2023-24, 2 millions, we have the team option of the third season, which is very good. Now, while it doesn't make them the Celtics more competitive at face value, moving away from Walker gives them more flexibility to shuffle the deck moving forward. Horford is 35, but should enter the next season well rested, and he is far away from being done. Now he has 27 millions guaranteed next year, and year after, in the second year, partially guaranteed 14.5 millions in 2022-23. In other words, Boston saves more than 30 millions here. While it may be hard to deal Horford again, the Horford helps the Celtics address the center position, which has been one of the biggest problem revolving door since he left. Moses Brown flashed signs of real development last year, and his extremely inexpensive contract giving Boston another option at 5, promising Robert Williams, insurance. That means that probably Tristan Thompson is odd man out, but we will see. Now, the Celtics were limited last season by the constant injuries. They also didn't have enough talent in the right places. Better on-court fit. Even when Kemba Walker was healthy, offensive fit of Kemba Walker with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum last season was not great, and that was not secret. Boston played their best basketball of the season before Walker returned from the knee injury. Walker efficiency was lackluster for high volume of shooting, and his defensive limitations were more pronounced due to his size and knee issues. Boston moved away from Walker, addressed in greater area of need for the roster, which is stretch shooting big. The Celtics know that Horford fits well offensively with Brown and Tatum, given success that trio had in the past, especially 2018 when they led the Celtics to the Eastern Conference Finals, while they lost in the Game 7 against Cavaliers in the Eastern Conference Finals 2018. Horford's ability has declined by the age, of course, but he still put together productive year. Last year, 27 games, 14 and 2 points per game, 6.7 rebounds per game, shooting 36.8% for three, 37%, which is great. And what is more important, Oklahoma had 11-14 with Horford winning, record 11-14. And without Horford, they losing 16 in a row. And then they defeated the Celtics, which was painful, of course. And Moses Brown shined in that return. Lastly, the Walker was a bit of knee-jerk reaction after watching Kyrie Irving, and ironically, Al Horford departed after 2019 season. When Walker started, experienced knee issues, January 2020, Tatum surged from All-Star NBA, and Brown started his own All-Star season after in a bubble, with Jays emerging and needing the ball in their hands more. High usage of Jays in the pick and roll heavy point guard. Walker was no longer ideal fit for the Celtics. So Walker lack of size complicated matters as well. And though he tried to compensate on the defensive end, he's not compensating that on the defensive end. Ultimately, a move was needed, and the Celtics moved quickly to maximize the benefits. This deal is not without risk. If Walker is able to get back to the sort of Charlotte production, then he can be valuable trade asset, and maybe will be able to fetch the Thunder even more draft capital down the road. For example, the Thunder could have in the next draft, if I'm correct, draft lottery is Tuesday, if I'm correct, and Thunder could have number 1 and number 5 pick at that draft. And lastly, I will leave the guys to talk. I have more to come. My quick math is telling me that the Boston freed up about 9.4 millions under 2021 22nd luxury tax in this trade. 9.4 millions. That combined with potential other moves should free up Boston potentially place to re-sign Evan Fournier without diving deep into luxury tax 2021 22nd. And by the way, I don't see the Celtics diving into the tax territory deep with or without Fournier, but we will see what happens. We will go to Kevin right now. What are your initial reactions to the trade, Kevin? Okay.
Actually, I was getting some stuff done to my car, and I looked at my watch. I was like, "Oh wow, Kemba Walker got traded." I said, I felt sorry for him, but it is what it is, man. I mean, the thing about it is Kemba. I mean, the thing that gets me is that when he was not with Boston, he played all these games. Soon he comes to Boston, now he has all these knee injuries. I'm like, what happened? What happened between you flying from Charlotte to coming to Boston, and now you got all these knee injuries, which is what's really bothered me. I kind of feel sorry for him, in a sense, because I think he really wanted to be in Boston. I think he really wanted to play with those guys. But health is the reason why we let him go. It's not that he's not talented or nothing. It's just that you can't give a guy that type of money and don't know if he's going to be available. That's the biggest issue that I see with Kemba Walker, is if he's going to play or not. And the thing about it is, like, it gets the Nets. He didn't play the last 2 games, and the reason why he probably didn't play is because I think he could have played if he wanted to play. But I think they didn't want to jeopardize anything else happening to him, because they already had in their mind that it was going to try to get rid of Kemba Walker anyway. I was surprised it happened so fast. It really shocked me that it happened this fast. And like Igor said, I'm surprised if Danny Ainge was there. Danny Ainge would not have given up that 16th pick. He would have gave up another pick or something else. He's not giving up the first round pick. And the thing about it is, me and Igor had talked about this once before, when Boston did the trade to get Kyrie Irving, and he's like, would you rather give them the pick, or would you rather give them Jaylen Brown? I was like, I'd rather give them the pick, because you don't know what the pick is going to bring. Okay, so we don't know what the pick is, and then once that pick somebody picks at 16, then we can measure that person compared to Moses Brown. Like Igor said, I think he's insurance for Time Lord if he doesn't get healthy enough. I think our taco days are probably over with now. I think he might be the one that may end up getting cut. And if you look at what they're doing, so you got Al Horford, you got Time Lord, you got Tristan Thompson right there. They got those 3 guys that can play center. So you got you're I think you're set at center. We still got to figure out who the point guard is going to be. If I think we're all thinking the same thought, is that Boston's might take a run at Alonzo Ball. I think that we need a point guard that's pass first and not shoot first, because it doesn't flow with the way the game is being played with Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who's going to take the majority of the shots. So and I think with Alonzo Ball, he's a pretty good defender. He's gotten better at defending. And he's a good passer. So I think that would be a way that Boston goes. But as far as Kemba's concerned, I know they said they're going to try to find another home for Kemba, but it's going to be kind of hard, because everybody knows the issue with Kemba with the knee issue. They know there's a knee issue. Me personally speaking, I wouldn't be surprised if Kemba goes to the Lakers, but if the Lakers were to grab Kemba up, now you're looking at a point guard that's he shoots first. You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't go in the flow of their game. And so it's going to be hard for them to move him around to somewhere where he can be an attribute to the team, because if you got a point guard that shoots first and pass second, now that limits you to wherever he goes to. So I mean, I wish him the best of luck. It ended so bad. And just reading the thing about Blake Griffin, that breaks my heart right there. That this team was that dysfunctional. The players like, don't come here, man. You don't want to come here. You know what I'm saying? So Danny Ainge hit a lot of stuff this year, man. But if you listen to his interviews when we would have his interviews on the show, he would always not answer the question. He would answer the question, but not answer the question. You know what I'm saying? He always skip around questions about certain things. You know what I'm saying? And now we know why, because he had, like he said, back in March, he might have been, in March, he said, or April, he said he was thinking about stepping down. I think that was a great move for the Celtics because Danny Ainge, from what I'm reading and what you guys are reading is that nobody trusted him no more. The players didn't trust him. You know what I'm saying? So if the GMs don't trust you, that's a whole different story. You try to get the best deal you can. And if your deal pans out to be better than the deal that you gave to the other team, that's not your fault. But when your own players don't trust you, then that's when you got an issue. You know what I'm saying? So we'll see what Brad Stevenson does from now on. Now, my question too about this whole trade thing is, and I posted in the page, I want to know if Danny Ainge had his hands in this at all. Did he help Brad Stevenson out at all? Did he make any phone calls? Did he do anything? Because we know, I don't think Danny Ainge actually is away from the team. I mean, he stepped down. He might be like an advisor or whatever the case may be until Brad Stevenson gets his feet totally wet. But I would love to find out if he had something to do with this trade that happened. And if he didn't, then that's kudos for Brad Stevenson, because he did something that Danny Ainge wouldn't do. He went on a limb and he got a guy that played well in his system. You know what I'm saying? Now we got to remember that was Brad Stevenson's system they played in. We still don't have a coach, okay? And hopefully we'll find out who the coach is going to be real soon. I'm a lot of people say it's going to probably be Sam Cassell is the guy that they're talking about more so than anybody else. I personally like Chauncey Billups myself. I would love to see him, but again, if they're going to do small ball, I still say that they need to take somebody off the Golden State Warriors roster, off their coaching roster, because that's their thing. They play the small ball better than anybody else does. So Eagle went deep into the money situation. I don't do that because that's Igor's thing. I'm just talking about the team in general. And I like the move. And Al's he's well rested. He hadn't played since February. So they just told him go home and chill. How would you like to get paid and not have to work, guys? You know what I'm saying? That's basically what they did. So we knew Al Horford wanted to come back to Boston. Okay. So that was a good thing. And I'll be honest with you guys, I would love to see them bring, if they could bring Kelly back, and maybe if they could bring Kelly back and Kelly plays a little power forward and play some center too. Because he's really matured in Miami. He's a really good player. I don't have a problem with retreads coming back into Boston if they're going to help the team win. Right now though, it's up in the air where we stand with this team. And so I don't think we'll make any more big moves until free agency comes around. Hopefully Fournier is a priority for us. We get Evan Fournier back on the team. He'll get time to preseason. I do have a question. Maybe Igor or Daniel can I didn't look it up yet, but do we have anybody on the team right now that's free agents that we pretty much know that's not coming back? I didn't look and see who's out there as far as free agents on our team. I know that the short guys, Waters and Edwards, I don't think they're coming back. You'll probably see in the summer league, you'll probably see a lot of free agents on the Celtics team that's trying to make the roster. So that'll be something good as well. So basically, that's all I got right there, guys. Is I'm happy for the trade. I wouldn't look at Moses play. That first thing I did when I said Moses Brown, said, okay, let me go look and see what he does. See what type of player he is. And being 7'2", I'm okay with that. I mean, and he's played in the league. He's played some games, so he got a little maturity underneath his belt. He's not a 3 shooter, but he can shoot the 3. I mean, he made a couple this year. I mean, and maybe that's what he'd be working on in the off season. But again, I like that move because we don't know the situation with Time Lord. And I think his player option is coming up this season, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm pretty sure Boston's not going to give him a new contract until after the year is over with. So that's all I have. So I guess Andrew, you're next up, my friend, with Lucky with the smile.
Yeah, thanks. First of all, I'm sorry, my webcam's not working. Second of all, I will say that I was ecstatic when I heard that Kemba Walker had been traded. I will go out there on the limb because everybody's saying nice things about Kemba Walker. I'm going to say right now, he was not. Even if he goes back to the Charlotte level, the level of play he had in Charlotte, he still wouldn't have gotten Boston to a title. He's still overrated. He was still overpaid. You're looking at a score only, because he doesn't pass well. He's a score only point guard with a 48.8% EFG. And that's awful for a quote unquote star. When you look at your superstars, your tier A point guards, you're looking at guys like Dame Lillard, Steph Curry, Kyrie Irving. They are all over 52% EFG. Steph is something like 58%, which is ridiculous, but they're all over 52. Your tier B point guards like, Kyle Lowry, Jrue Holiday, those guys, they're all over 50% EFG, and they usually have a secondary skill that they bring to the table, like defense or passing, right? So I think the only way that Kemba Walker looks good is if he is playing on a team that does nothing but let him shoot out of pick and roll. That's the only way that he looks good. And no team that plays basketball that way is going to come close to a championship. And that's why the Hornets, with Kemba Walker as their best player, never came close to the finals. And that's why the Hornets let him go when they felt like they were ready to make a move and contend. So I'm personally very glad that he's gone. The fact that he sat out those last 2 games against the Nets, that said a lot to me. Yeah, I know people will say that he's injured, but I'm looking across the NBA right now in the playoffs, and you look at all these guys who have injuries that are playing. You look at Joel Embiid. The guy has a partially torn meniscus, and he's out there on the court, battling for the Sixers. Trae Young had some injury concerns. He's playing. Donovan Mitchell's playing. Mike Conley came back early. James Harden came back early. So, all these guys could go and play through their injuries to come and battle with their team. And Walker couldn't. And to me, that says everything I need to see about him. I'm glad that he's gone. He could do whatever in Oklahoma. Nobody cares about the Thunder. They're not relevant to the playoffs. And that's probably the best place for Kemba Walker. Now, in terms of bringing Al Horford back, I love it. And I am one of the people, I'm not convinced that Horford is going to be able to contribute on the court at a high level. And I know everybody's saying that he's well-rested, but the problem with him being well-rested is that also means that his muscles aren't necessarily conditioned for the game, and his bone structure may not be conditioned for the game, because bone atrophy is actually as fast as muscle does. And that's a concern once you start to get to his age, and I know that because he's in my age group. And if I sit around for a week or two, or if I don't go run for a week or two and then I go run, it doesn't feel good. I feel every single one of the days of my 35 years of age, So there is some, I'm not convinced that he comes back and contributes at a high level. I think he will have good games. I think he will provide some solid play across the board, but I don't expect him to come back anywhere close to the level that he was at when he left Boston. With that being said, I think what Horford brings back to this team is leadership and locker room chemistry, because those were 2 of his biggest accomplishments, or the biggest contributions that he made to Boston before. And that's not affected by age. And I think bringing him back is, sort of like an active attempt to address the chemistry issues that we all knew were present on this Celtics team this year. And I think that's a big part of it. And I also think I put this up on the Facebook page. I think it's quite likely that the Celtics will look to try to buy him out at the end of next season and transfer him to an assistant coach role. And I mean, it makes a lot of sense. You know, Horford, he's a high IQ defensive player. He loves Boston. He loves the franchise. Stevens has always had a lot of respect for him, giving him a lot of authority on the court. So I could I see that as being a very realistic option. It's something I could see Horford accepting because he gets that long-term job security. He knows he's going to stay in Boston. He has a guaranteed job as an assistant coming out. It's good for Boston too, because now you have an assistant coach that's directly tied to the two J's. So I think that's something. It would obviously free up cap space for Boston. So I think that's something that we might see at the end of this upcoming season that would be mutually beneficial. And I would personally be thrilled if that happened. And I think that would make this whole trade worth it. In terms of Moses Brown, kid can put up amazing numbers. You know, we all saw that this season. Granted, one thing I have been saying to fans is temper your expectations. He put those amazing numbers up against some really bad teams. You know, like Chicago. He had a great game against Chicago. Chicago is categorically awful against centers. They're, I think, the worst team in the NBA against the five this last year. So, you know, temper the expectations a little bit. I think what Moses Brown does is he gives us a very good rotational piece because he's something that we've lacked. We haven't had a really tall center. Both Thompson and Time Lord are undersized. So getting that 7'2" guy gives you another piece that you could throw into the rotation to change up the pace a little bit. I think in terms of what I want to see from Moses Brown, I want to see him develop his ability to defend the perimeter because that was a weak spot for him this last year. Yeah, it's something that 7-footers struggle with. And what we've just seen from the Utah-LA series is that a big man who cannot defend the perimeter is going to be a liability in postseason basketball. I think that, you know, the two things that we want Moses Brown to work on is perimeter defense and passing. Because I'm not convinced he's going to be a great three-point shooter, and I'd really rather him not take those shots if he's not going to make them at a high level. But if he could pass out of the post or just learn to pass in general, it's kind of like what Time Lord has done, that would give him a lot of added value on the offensive end. Yeah, I think that's what's really key to a modern big man and being viable is you can't just rebound, block, get blocks in the paint and score in the paint anymore. You have to do something else on offense, and you have to be able to defend the perimeter. But yeah, I mean, I think it'll be interesting to see who we get for a head coach. There's a part of me that almost wonders if the Celtics will wait to name a head coach until they've finished making their major moves. And then they're going to see what each head coach candidate would do with the roster they have. That's something I have considered because we've heard very little about it, but they're making all these big moves. So it may be that Stevens is shaking up the roster, and then he's going to talk to each head coach candidate and say, "Hey, this is what we got. What would your plan going into the season be?" That would kind of make sense in a way. I do think the Kemba Walker move, I think that was Stevens' brainchild. I think that's because Kemba Walker never fit Brad Stevens' system. Like Stevens, we all know he loves these positionally versatile players. Walker has zero positional versatility. So I think that Stevens wanted him gone. Yeah, I think that the other thing to consider is that Danny Ainge couldn't get rid of him. If Ainge traded him, it would look like another IT situation where, Danny Ainge just traded another guy because he got injured, and that would give Celtics a black eye. Brad Stevens comes in as the new GM. He can make the same trade, and instead of it being, we're trading Kemba because he's injured, it's more along the lines of Brad Stevens' new GM, and he's, switching things, he's shaking things up to suit his image, so he kind of gets a little bit more leeway with that. But yeah, so that's really all I have to say about that trade. I think it's exciting. I think it's a great trade for Boston. I think it's a trade that we really, there's no way that we lose that trade, period. I don't care if Kemba Walker, finds the fountain of youth and plays like he did in Charlotte. Boston still won the trade. So,
I want to answer to the question, and which is interesting, that Kevin asked that is who is signed for the next season by the Celtics. Here are the players on our roster and cap figures. Jason Tatum, 28.1 millions estimated. We have bird rights, rookie maximum extension 25%. And Al Horford is signed with cap space 27 millions. Jalen Brown using bird rights 26.7 millions. Marcus Smart using bird rights 14.3 millions. Tristan Thompson is signed via mid-level exception, non-taxpayers mid-level exceptions. 9.7 millions. Tristan Thompson. Romeo Langford, rookie deal, 3.8 millions. Robert Williams, rookie deal, 3.7 millions. Aaron Naismith, rookie deal, 3.6. Grant Williams, rookie deal, 2.6. Jabari Parker, minimum 2.28 millions. Non-guaranteed contract, Jabari Parker. Peyton Pritchard, 2.1. Rookie deal, Carson Edwards, 1.78 cap space, and Moses Brown, 1.7 millions. He is signed using non-tax-paying mid-level exceptions. Now, Moses Brown, interesting story because he was signed on 10 days contract. Then after the Celtics game, if I'm correct, he was re-signed by Oklahoma on the second 10 days contract, and then he was signed to the actual contract. Now he was traded to Boston, and he is occupying part of non-tax paying mid-level exception alongside Tristan Thompson. We have one non-guaranteed deal. Jabari Parker, we will guarantee that, I think, and that's it. We have dead cap in Gershon Yabusele, Demetrius Jackson, and also we have cap holds on the players like Evan Fournier, Luke Cornett, Semi Ojeleye, Taco Fall, Tremont Waters, but cap holds represent like placeholders for pending free agents, unsigned draft picks, other sheets. Since the Celtics are currently over the league salary cap, these cap holds do not count against total cap figures. So renouncing these cap holds will not afford the team any cap space. These figures are not counting towards the team luxury tax allocations. Cap holds are Evan Fournier 26.1, Luke Cornett 2.9, Semi Ojeleye 1.7, Taco Fall 1.4, Tremont Waters 1.5, and Taco Fall 1.5. So, Kevin, those are the list of the players that are free agents, and we have cap holds on them. We have rights on them. Fournier, Cornett, Ojeleye, Taco Fall, Waters. We will see who will stay, who will go. Exceptions. We have remaining non-tax paying exception, 9.5 millions. Mid-level exception 9.5 millions, biannual exception 3.7 millions, trade exception 2.5 millions created by Vincent Poirier, trade exception 4.7 millions from Enes Kanter, 11 millions exception TPE left from Gordon Hayward, then Jeff Teague exception 1.6, trade exception Daniel Tice 5 millions, and finally Kemba Walker trade exception 6.8 millions. Luxury tax thresholds. The Celtics currently stand in the luxury tax thresholds. Teams that spend over the thresholds pay fines. Luxury tax threshold is 136 millions. Total salaries that I read committed are 128.6 millions, which means that currently we have luxury tax cap space 7.9 millions. But remember, we don't have 7.9 millions to spend on other teams' free agents. That is only the cap space until we start to pay the taxes. And that's it. If I can find somewhere, I think that I have our depth chart posted somewhere, which will illustrate you better, guys, where the Celtics are standing currently. So currently, right now, signed players, we have ball handlers, Marcus Smart, Peyton Pritchard. We have wings, Jason Tatum, Jalen Brown, Langford, Naismith, Parker, Edwards. We have bigs, Horford, Thompson, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, Moses Brown. And more traditional depth chart, if you want, point guards, Smart and Pritchard. Shooting guards, Langford, Edwards. Small forwards, Brown and Naismith. Power forwards, Tatum, Grant Williams, and Parker, if we guaranteed his contract. And centers, Horford, Thompson, Robert Williams, Moses Brown. So that's about it. And finally, in this my in this my conversation, I will read something that Kevin mentioned, and that is one interesting note, if I can find it. Blake Griffin said something interesting, and Danny and I talk about it. And I will ask Danny before we go to Kevin for comments about the roster. Daniel and the guys, listen to this. Blake Griffin asked about joining Celtics at the trade deadline, before the trade deadline, but unnamed Celtics player told him not to join the Celtics. So Jared Weiss of The Athletic, again, Jared Weiss is not a bad source. He's very good source. He's friend of the show. He was at the Celtics Talk Radio. I talked with him recently on the Italian chat. You can find at the Celtics Talk Radio that chat. Jared Weiss from The Athletic. This is a very good journalist. He revealed from his source that former All-Star Blake Griffin considered coming to Boston before he signed to the Nets. Pre-Jaylen Brown injury, Boston Celtics were considered by analysts as the team that could be surprised in the playoffs. So Blake Griffin had thought about it to join the Celtics. Jared Weiss reported that Griffin ended up passing on the Celtics due to the conversation and the advice he received from the unnamed Celtics player. The Celtics player alluded allegedly to the dysfunction in the locker room when talking to Griffin. Quote, according to the source, Brooklyn's Blake Griffin asked a Celtics player if he should join the team mid-season, and he was told he should not join the Celtics because the Celtics will not do anything in the playoffs because apparently they were dysfunctional in the locker room. And we all know that Griffin ended up joining Brooklyn Nets, giving them another valuable contribution. He's starting for the Nets. The Nets are soon playing the Game 7 second round against the Bucks, a series tied 3-3 without Kyrie Irving. It seems a tough decision was correct because the Nets, but again, it's showing us that what we were talking here, at the Celtics Talk Radio, Kevin, Andy, and Danny. Danny, remember when we was talking, while all the media's there, we were only ones that doubted. Andy was writing articles about it, remember that there must be something wrong between the coach and the players, or between the players. We analyzed, Kevin, if you recall, that chemistry, for example, between Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum. Now, I don't say that they hate each other, but did you see cheering each other's, just passing by each other's, eventually clapping hands? So you could see by previously when we had losing streaks, Marcus Smart was calling out the teammates, but the media spinned that out, persuading us that everything is all right in the locker room. Everybody are great, Kemba Walker, as Andy said, the narrative is that he is great teammate, etc. I think it's overrated. I thought that it's overrated and the confirmation just received. But imagine that the Celtics player, never mind which player is, to advise the Blake Griffin, other team's free agent, not to come to Boston because it is bad in Boston. It is you that atmosphere was bad, number one, and number two, that the Celtics players, some of them, not all of them, they just did we were the only ones. And of course, the fans were attacking us for that statement that there must be something wrong in the Celtics locker room. And here is the confirmation from reliable source, The Athletic. Daniel, do you want to say something?
Well, just letting you know that your audio was breaking out, Igor. But again, you are right that he's a very reliable source, but that's not the only thing, you guys. If we want to talk about the issue of what might be causing turmoil with the Celtics and the team, clutch points. Again, I don't know if you got to discuss about whether they're reliable or not. Clutch points rumor: Jason Tatum, Celtics players blasted for alarming not reaction to Kyrie Irving logo stop. One of the biggest controversies to come out of the first round series between the Celtics and the Brooklyn Nets was the incident involving Kyrie Irving disrespectfully stomping on the Celtics logo in the TD Garden. This caused quite an uproar among the Celtics faithful, but evidently the Boston players themselves lacked the same strong reaction towards Irving's antics. And of course, we all know that that's the truth because we've seen how many people in our group in this situation have seen, like, basically they can say, who cares about the situation in this case? It's just a damn, painting on the floor. That's how they see it compared to the rest of us. So it goes on to basically say, after that, according to reports, the Celtics organization saw this non-reaction from their own players as alarming, considering the level of disrespect exhibited by Irving. A source said the Celtics players' flippant response to Irving's logo stomp came across as a red flag. They did not exhibit the same sense of pride in the organization that has been the Celtics' calling card in years past. Now that this issue has been brought forward, it does make you think about how not a single Celtics player spoke out about Irving's mockery. A number of former players blasted Irving for his actions, but players like Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and the rest of the team pretty much let it fly. Does the fact that they used to be teammates with Kyrie Irving have something to do with this? For his part, Tatum himself has said on multiple occasions that he remains good friends with the Nets star to this very day, which could have played a role in the lack of animosity. At the end of the day, we all know that the NBA is one big brotherhood and that they all look out for each other. However, you have to draw the line somewhere, right? So again, it's if you take that that website for being accurate, it seems like even the people at the top of the ownership, the top of the team itself, management and ownership, are now starting to get a little bit upset with our players because they would accept the players themselves are showing that on top of what you just reported, Igor, with them being willing to tell other superstars don't come to this team because there's issues in the locker room, they're willing to accept players from other teams disrespecting the franchise, all because they would rather have the friendship and the brotherhood with those players from other teams rather than actually representing the franchise that in the jersey they're actually wearing. And this, Igor, is where you and me can basically say we have a right to be upset with the people in our group and fans that we've had all these years. Think about it, guys. Dysfunction. You got dysfunction in the locker room this year. Why the hell would there be dysfunction if you got rid of the guys that supposedly were causing the dysfunction just a few years ago? Think about it. I thought the moment we got rid of Kyrie Irving, Al Horford, Gordon Hayward, Marcus Morris, and all of that, all the dysfunction was supposed to end. Wasn't that the claim? That the moment those guys were gone, everything was going to go back to being peaceful, and this team was going to go in the right direction because the young guys were all in good cahoots with each other. But yet, those guys are all gone in this situation, and we still have dysfunction in the locker room. Maybe that might mean, you guys, that those veterans weren't the problem. They may have been part of it, but it's becoming more obvious that those guys weren't the main cause. If you're telling me now those guys are in other cities, and you got the young players now taking the leadership, and you're still having issues in the locker room that can't be resolved, and now you got to be trading away your all-star point guard, which again, we understand the reason why. It's because, of his health situation and the money, but you got to be getting to a point where now you got to be telling stars that might be interested in coming to play for you, oh, don't come to Boston, man, because, it's too bad. The locker room is too screwed up. You're not going to be happy there in this situation. Go play for a team that's standing in front of us in Brooklyn. I can understand, you guys, if, let's just say for argument's sake, that's Jason Tatum talking to Blake Griffin. If you're telling him to go play for a team like Charlotte that is behind us in the standings, fine. But what the hell are you doing if you know that you're talking to him and the other team the other team that he has an option to play with is the Brooklyn Nets, and that's a team ahead of you? Like, come on. Where the heck is your loyalty at this point? If you're telling me the locker room is that screwed up, and you would rather see superstars like him go play for Brooklyn or Philadelphia or Milwaukee or Miami or Toronto, teams you got to get through to get to an NBA Finals championship, rather than him come and play for you on your team. At this point, you guys, I think it's becoming more and more obvious. These young players are pretty much causing the problems. The way they look at themselves, their heads are way too fat at this point, thanks to these fans who basically have put them so high up on pedestals that they truly have not earned the right to be on at this point, because they haven't won no championships. You haven't even made it to no NBA Finals at this point. You've only made it to a couple Game 7s in the Eastern Conference Finals in this case, and you've lost each and every one for the most at this point. But yet, you're untradeable. These fans have made you untradeable. So, I'm tired of it, you guys. I'm tired of it, and the more information we're hearing now that Brad Stevens is no longer the coach, he's the GM, makes it more obvious. It makes me feel, if I got the opportunity to trade someone like Jaylen Brown to get a legit star like Damian Lillard, I'm going to do it. Especially if I know Jaylen Brown is causing the problems in the locker room to a point where now I got to worry about somebody else in the locker room telling another star that's willing to come to me, oh, you don't want to come to Boston because our locker room is in too much turmoil because the players can't get along. We're never going to get to another championship if that's the type of crap going on because our young players basically got too much of a fat head and can't get along because of the way they think about themselves. Fans just got to accept it and got to understand that. It's all about the championships, ladies and gentlemen. If you're a true Celtic fan, it's about winning a championship, not being loyal to the guys whose names are on the back of the actual jerseys.
See, but I think, if you look at the same, I think it's the same article we're looking at. What I think the big problem with Boston's chemistry, I don't think it was young players or veteran players so much as I think the problem was Brad Stevens, because Stevens couldn't manage those egos in the Kyrie Irving year. Because, you think about, you have those sorts of conflicts on a lot of teams where you have up-and-coming young stars that want a bigger role, and the veteran players know what needs to be done, but the young stars think they can do it better. And, that's where that's where a good coach, that's what separates a good coach from a bad coach, is a good coach can handle that. He can find compromise. He can get those guys to work together. He can get the veteran players to kind of, see the bigger role to the younger guys, also get the younger guys to understand that in the big moments, these vets are still going to be taking those shots and have the ball. And I think maybe moving Stevens to the front office was a good thing, because maybe he's better off there. One thing I've seen that's a common thread is that Stevens, a big issue with the Celtics chemistry is that certain players were not held accountable. So Gordon Hayward, that was the one. Gordon Hayward was Stevens' boy, and he was never held. And everybody who's watched the show knows I'm a big Gordon Hayward fan. But you cannot deny that Stevens played him before he was ready and did not hold him accountable for the poor play. And that's going to hurt chemistry on any team. That hurt chemistry on the Clippers last year when Kawhi and PG-13 were getting preferential treatment. And then the one I've heard this year from a couple of places is I've heard Marcus Smart and Stevens not holding Smart accountable. We all know Marcus Smart will take some of the most cringeworthy shots in NBA history. There are some shots where I don't even know how you think you could possibly make the shot that he tries. Those weird twisting, falling away, heave from the side, 3-point shots. And you're like, what are you doing, Marcus? And if you're a coach, and then you see him, he stays on the court, and he brings the ball down, he jacks up another shot, he stays on the court, brings the ball down, jacks up another shot. And that's, that to me, it's 100% obvious that that's the coach. As a coach, you have to hold that guy responsible. You have to hold him accountable. You have to pull him out of the game. Hey, Marcus, what the heck are you doing? Are you trying to throw a softball pitch? And Stevens wasn't doing that, and that caused chemistry issues. That's, I was reading that. I think it was in the same article Daniel was reading is that was a big issue. And I could see why, because if I'm Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown and I've been making my shots and I've, brought us back, and then we lose because Smart takes 3 terrible 3-pointers and nobody holds him accountable, I'd be pretty pissed off about that. I think any of us would be pissed off about that, right? So I think that whoever comes in as the head coach has to find a way to hold people accountable. It's going to be hard because these guys have spent their formative years playing in a system where there is no accountability. It's kind of like if you get a kid, say you adopt a foster kid, and this kid has had no discipline throughout his whole life, and now all of a sudden you're trying to give him discipline. It's like a constant uphill battle. Because because his formative years he spent not having that discipline. And I think that's going to be really difficult for whoever our new head coach is, because they're going to be battling against that current from the Stevens era where there was no accountability. So now, you have to hold everybody accountable. That means you're holding Tatum accountable when he's making those bad shots and dribbling into terrible isolation. And how's Tatum going to take that when he's the quote-unquote superstar of the team, and all of a sudden, after 3 years of being able to do whatever he wanted to do, all of a sudden he's being told like, hey, you're coming out of the game because you're not playing within the system. I don't know how that's going to work. It has to be, whoever becomes the head coach has to be somebody that they could respect. I think Sam Cassell or Chauncey Billups are probably your two best options in terms of having that background where they could be respected. But yeah, I mean, like, I think that chemistry, I think going back to the pride thing, there is no pride. I mean, Daniel, you're 100% right. There's no pride on this team. They're more concerned with being friends than they are with competing. And that's like something that's completely alien to me. I played a lot of sports growing up. I played football. I wrestled. I fought amateur MMA. Like, there are a lot of people I respected that I competed against. Like, I respected a lot of people I competed against. I wasn't trying to be friends with anybody that was on the other team. Like, when we face off, whether it's across the line of scrimmage, whether it's in the ring, whatever the case may be, like, you're my enemy. Like, I'm doing everything I can do to beat you. And I'm trying to get myself worked up to get that anger so I can channel that anger to give me the extra energy and that extra drive. Like, I'm not there like, hey man, that was a great tackle, dude. Like, hey, nice job. Like, I'm not trying to be your I'm not trying to be your friend. I'm not trying to I'm not trying to go play pool with you or go to the bar and have drinks afterwards. I'm there to win, and I hope that you're there to win too, because that's what makes good sports. That's what makes a good game, is when you have two sides that are fired up. There's some animosity, there's some conflict, there's some confrontation there. That's what we love to see as fans. There's pride, and there's that pride, the confrontation that comes from those emotions, that pride, like PJ Tucker and KD getting in each other's faces. That's what makes a competitive game, because there's that emotion, that pride, self-pride, and pride in your team. And the Celtics just don't have that, and they're very hard to watch without it. That's all I have.
I'm just gonna piggyback on what you said. And the thing about it is with the Celtics is, I've been a Celtics fan since early 70s, and I've been saying this whole season that these guys just don't have that it factor in them. And I made a post. I was like, is it more important to be a winner or be great at a sport? And there were so many people who said, I'd rather be great than be a winner. But the whole purpose of playing sports is to win. You play to win, like my man said, you play to win the game. Okay? But we're getting away from that now because of AAU basketball is killing the NBA, because everybody becomes friends. Nobody wants to become enemies. And like you said, Tucker and KD, they have a mutual respect for each other, but on the court, they got to do what they got to do. Because the thing about it is, if Tucker don't step up and do what he got to do against KD, then they look at him like, well, he's not valuable no more to us. We got to trade him. You know what I'm saying? We got to trade him because he can't do his job. You know what I'm saying? The Celtics are not taking nothing personal. That's the problem, I think, is they're not taking it personal enough. And our fans have got their heads so big that they feel like they can say and do whatever they want to do. I remember when the Celtics went to the finals, when Kyrie Irving was there, and Jaylen Brown goes to Danny Ainge and says to Danny Ainge, he says, "Are we better than the team from 1986?" And Danny Ainge looks at him like, how you know how good that team was? That's one of the best teams in the NBA. You really know? He said that's when he knew that these guys really didn't understand what it meant to be great. What it meant to be great, and how to work hard to get to be great. Like I've been saying all year long, I said Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum will never understand what it is until they feel defeat in a way that it humbles them to no end. And I don't even know if this year humbled them for real. I'll be honest with you. I really don't think it humbled them, because you had Jason that's got 50-some points a game. You got Jaylen that got 50-some points a game. So they feel like they're ready to blossom into superstars next year. To me, they're not there yet. Okay. And again, Brad Stevenson, as we know, he doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't holler. You know what I'm saying? And But let Danny Ainge say that he's in the locker room, he's cussing them out. But I find that hard to believe. I really find it hard to believe. And we see now that nobody's held accountable for their actions, and that's bad. And you know, with that being said, you know, I would like to see them bring somebody back that played for the Celtics, that has some pride. They bring it back where the pride matters to them. And they play that way. It's going to be hard, whoever they get as a coach, to come in and change things around. But you got to remember, Doc Rivers did that with Paul Pierce. He's like, oh, go sit down because you're not playing no more. You know what I'm saying? So once Paul understood where Doc was going, he's like, okay, I see where you're trying to go. He said, okay, I'm gonna jump on the bandwagon with you. I'm gonna ride this train with you. You know what I'm saying? And that's what we got to get. That's what Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and Marcus Smart has to be able to do. They got to get on that train. Whoever the coach is, they got to get on the train with that coach, and they got to make everybody believe and make everybody accountable for their actions. And they have to play the way this coach wants them to play. And once you do that and you start winning games again, the games become fun again, and the reaction you get from your fans are different. Can you imagine if they had played the season with fans in the stands and them getting blown out by 30-some points at home? All the boos they would have got, they would have been sick. You know what I'm saying? Because their feelings got hurt. Now they're mad. But they're mad because Brad Stevenson and Danny Ainge both said this is not a playoff caliber team. You get mad about that, but they didn't lie. They told the truth. You're not a playoff caliber team, and it showed through the whole season, the peaks and valleys that they did, even in playoffs. I mean, come on, man. I mean, call a spade and be done with it, because you know what the thing about it is, you gotta accept your responsibility for your losing and your winning as well. Marcus Smart, I love Marcus Smart because he gives you 100% every time he's on the floor. He plays great defense, but sometimes his shot that he shoots, I'm sitting there scratching my head. I got a ball spot right here from him shooting, and I'm trying to figure out what he's doing. I'm like, what is this guy doing? You know what I'm saying? So he has to be accountable. You know what I'm saying? But we know that Marcus Smart probably gets away with more than anybody else on that team, because Brad Stevenson knows that he could let that he's going to give him defense on one end, and he gives him a little bit of offense on another end. And actually led the team in assists and played good defense. So I'm like, you know, I just want to see the growth in these guys. I want to see the growth. I'm really excited for Jaylen Brown because of the way the season ended for him. So when he comes back, I think he's going to come back even hungrier than what he was before. And we know every year he has worked on something else to improve his game. Hopefully his free throw shooting improves, and he goes back to playing great defense again. I mean, I don't think he played I don't think he played really good defense through the season. He did it in spurts, but he wasn't consistent with that. You know what I'm saying? So Andrew, everything you said, I agree with you on that. And we, you know, and you made a good point too about the coach. You know, they're gonna make some more moves, and then they're gonna sit the coach down and say, okay, this is the team you have. How do you best? How can you best coach this team that we have right now? So the coach basically won't have no say so who comes and who goes, and he's got to coach them. You know, it's like me going to the grocery store getting the groceries, and you telling me how to cook them. I'm like, well, I don't cook it that way, but this is the way I want it cooked. You know what I'm saying? So I got to cook it the way you want to be cooked, but you didn't buy the groceries. So it's going to be really interesting how this team goes next year. Again, I'm really excited. Like I said, Jaylen Brown. I want to see Naismith. I think Naismith is going to make a big jump. I want to see what Pritchard does. And even in the draft, I swear before God, if he drafts as a 6'2" point guard, I swear I'm going to Boston and slap the shit out of him. I'm telling you right now, they better not draft another small guard, because it don't make any sense. I mean, that's all we have on the team right now. So hopefully they go for a power forward or a wing, or if they do go for a point guard, somebody that's tall, you know, 6'5" or 6'6". I think that will help the team out. But they can't. I mean, even if we trade and get Damian Lillard, or we get another point guard like that, we're still in the same situation we in before because he's a shoot first point guard. Everybody wants him, but he's a shoot first point guard. Right, yeah, my man, right. And so as fans, we got to realize that's not where we need to go to make this team better. Okay, because if we go with another point guard that shoots first, we're back where we are with Kemba. So hopefully we can make changes to what's going on. I think we on to 8 o'clock because I think we got like 10 minutes left. So that's all I have, guys. And we'll see what goes on from this point on out.
We can go as far as we can. I mean, we can go further than 8. We can go 8:30, whatever we decide. I just want to say that Andy has good point about the Stevens. But when you think about guys, what was the Celtics fans had couple of ideas and wishes prior to the offseason. One group of fans wanted Danny Ainge to be fired. Another group of fans wanted Stevens to be fired. Andy was, one of them. The third group of fans, also Andy, wanted Kemba Walker to be traded. And guess what? This is June 18th, and you have every one of those wishes fulfilled. One simple one thing that Stevens got promoted, but that's what happened. So, I mean, about the next things, Fournier. I mean, is Fournier going to be re-signed or not? This is the question. Then the question is, what will happen to the logjam at the center positions? Who is going to go? I think personally that Tristan Thompson is going to be traded sooner or later. And we have draft lottery soon. Lottery is Tuesday, if I'm correct. So, I mean, the first domino that is going to fall, I think, is going to be coach. Now, is that going to be before the draft and after the draft? Now we saw that Rick Carsley is available because he got fired from Dallas. I mean, but on the other side, we are hearing from the sources. One sources are saying that Celtics are looking towards black coach. Another sources are saying that Rick Carsley is one of the top 3 candidates. So those are the dominoes that needs to fall into the place. And about the Fournier, I mean, I have questions for you guys while we're still on. Kevin needs to go 8. We can stay a little longer. I mean, I have questions. Should we re-sign Fournier and go with him, or should we just play Romeo Langford and Naismith? Because you got the real development in Naismith. He showed flashes of potential. Then Romeo Langford also, he was injured, but when he played, he showed that he can be solid defender. On the other side, when we had on the court all rookie bench, that bench was crap. It created the huge holes. So about Parker, Andy was saying that of course, Kevin. I mean, I think Parker will stay. I'm not sure about Fournier. We heard Chicago and New York, if I'm correct, want him. We will see what happens there. Kevin wants to say something about the coach.
All right, guys. Before I leave, I got a cookout to go to. Being that I'm Afro American, and I'm a Celtic fan at heart, but I'm Afro American. I think there's a bunch of crap that they're saying that they need to hire an Afro-American coach. If you're not the best candidate for the job, then you don't hire him. If you take on the concept of Red Auerbach, as far as him being the owner of the team or the manager of the team, whatever he was back in the day, he said, I don't care if you're polka dot, green, yellow, or blue. If you can win championships for the Boston Celtics, you're going to play for us. Okay? That's the concept that they need to go into. It shouldn't be no pressure on the organization to hire an Afro-American as a head coach, especially if he's not going to be the guy that is for the long term. You know what I'm saying? In basketball, you pretty much look at coaches and you say they got a 4-year window. And that comes to play sometimes it doesn't play. But I'm just saying that whoever they pick as a coach, he needs to be the best candidate for that team. I don't care what color he is. Okay? This to me, this doesn't make any sense whatsoever for them to even put this out there in the Celtics. And then you got other teams out there that they're not saying nothing about, that they're not saying anything else about their coaches have to be Afro-American or whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Even though we have Rick Carlisle out there, I think the game is just think about this. Danny Ainge, Don Nelson, and Rick Carlisle all came out through the Boston Celtics system. And they're all gone right now. So I think basketball has passed them by now. So they've got to move on to do something else. I don't think Rick Carlisle will be the coach for that team because I don't think he can relate to the young people anymore. You know what I'm saying? So they got to get somebody young in there that can relate to them. Like I said, I like Sam Cassell. I like Sam Cassell. He got a title he got 3 titles. I like Chauncey Billups. He's a really smart guy. He's a really smart guy. He knows his X's and O's on the basketball court. So those 2 guys to me are the ones that I would really want to play in Boston. I mean, become the Boston, be the coach. But if there's somebody else that's not black that interviews well, then that's who they need to hire. Because it's all about winning basketball games. It's not about pleasing people, man. We got to stop that. It ain't about pleasing the fans. The fans got to understand that they do what's best for the organization. That's what's best for the fans. I'm still gonna be a fan regardless of the case, but please do not hire a black coach because you're being pressured to hire one, because that means that that's not the guy you prefer to be the head coach. You know what I'm saying? And it's gonna show at some point in time. And it's simply, I even heard D'Antonio's name being mentioned coming to Boston. God knows I don't want him in Boston. Nope, he can stay right where he's at. So, and Daniel said he thinks the players are also pressuring it too. My thing is though, Daniel, is if they need to come to me as a GM, as a GM, as owner, and say to me, this is a guy that we need. This is the guy that we need to hire, and this is why we need to hire him. And they need to show me that he has the potential to make this team a better team. He needs to show me he has the potential to be the 1, 2, or 3, or 4 seed in our conference. If he can't do that, then I'm not going to hire that guy. So that's all I got to say about that, man. And you guys have a good night. Happy Father's Day to y'all guys. And I will be talking to you guys whenever we do another show.
Okay. So we'll get back with Igor, and we'll see you on the next show, Kevin.
Okay.
So again, guys, my thoughts on what Kevin just said. I totally agree with him. What I kind of felt in regards to this issue of saying I feel players are pressuring it, is I feel the damage was done the moment Kyrie Irving opened his mouth and basically mentioned Boston is a racist town. And the fact that you did not really see Jason Tatum and the rest of these guys really come to the defense. You know, Jaylen Brown to an extent kind of did by basically saying, you can't label all of Boston as racist fans in this situation, in this case. And and like you said, Igor, Tatum kind of supported Kyrie in this situation, as well as Tristan and Smart as well. You didn't see nobody from the Celtics literally defend the Boston fans other than Jaylen to an extent. That's where I feel this situation has come to a point where it's obvious. Not only do we have this whole thing, as we mentioned with the previous discussion, of the brotherhood that takes place amongst these players, which is why you didn't see none of these guys get on Kyrie when it came to the issue of him stomping on the logo, and that's probably why we're now hearing reports of the ownership and all that having an issue with these players. But also, you now got to consider the issue of these players all being so emotionally attached to what's going on in the outside world. Think about it. I've said it so many times. The sports world compared to the outside world. The NBA bubble. And I'm not talking, ladies and gentlemen, the bubble for the COVID-19 situation. Get it right. I'm talking the NBA bubble. The sports bubble in this case. Anything that happens outside of that, once the players, leave the arena in this situation in their spare time, when it comes to their personal lives, has nothing to do with the NBA bubble itself. We have the NBA, along with many players and the fans and all that, allowed what's taking place in the real world to infiltrate the NBA bubble in this case. And how do we know that? We've seen it by the NBA dedicating money to the Black Lives Matter movement, the players being able to wear the personal messages on their jerseys and other things. And the moment we saw Kyrie make a statement like he did, and we've seen guys like Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum and all these other guys being involved in that movement as well, was the moment I felt we were going to start going south. We were going to start going south because many people already felt Boston was a racist town prior to these incidents with Kyrie. And the moment he opened it up, I knew it was only going to take one person to basically lose control. And Kyrie gave them the reason to do it the moment he stepped on that logo, before walking out. And sure enough, we had a fan stupid enough to do it. But this is why I say, you now have to get a coach. I got no problem with a black coach, you guys. I got no problem with a Chinese coach, Hispanic coach, white coach. I don't give a crap. As long as, like Kevin said, they're the best man for the job. Now, the only preference I have, you guys, is that I prefer a man, because NBA is played by men, not women, and somebody who's got already championship rings. Why? Because now that person can put those rings on their finger whenever Tatum and Brown try to let those fat heads come out and try to act like they know more than what the coach does, and the coach can then take those rings and, just like I said, the way I'm doing it to you guys, go ahead and flicker them right in front of Tatum and Brown's faces and say, you see these? These basically let you know I have the right to tell you what to do, not the other way around, because you don't have any of these at this point, but I do. Which means I know how to win in this league. You don't. So sit your ass down and listen to what I got to tell you. The moment you can win one of these is the moment you got the right to say anything to me. But until that point, you're going to listen to what I got to tell you. If not, I'll just talk to the people above us, and then we'll see what they decide to do, because either they're going to have to choose to let me go, or they're going to have to choose to let you go at this point. And trust me, with all the information that keeps coming out about how these guys are now talking to other superstars to tell them, don't come to Boston, telling them that we're having issues in the locker room, and obviously we keep letting other superstars that can compete with them leave, and you're still having issues. That lets us know at some point we gotta let you go. If you can't get together and basically, be a cohesive unit in a locker room, you can't get along in a locker room. Yet you've already let Kyrie go. You've let Horford go once. You let go of Hayward. You let go of Baines. You let go of Morris. Letting these guys, Tatum and Brown, know this is your team. We're giving the keys to the car to you to take us to the promised land, and yet you're still having issues in the locker room with these guys. being the leaders of this team, that lets us know at some point, if you get another coach to come in and they still can't get along with that coach, then it has to let you know, especially if it's an NBA coach, somebody who's played in the league and has championships, there's something wrong with your players, not the guys you got basically coming in. But that's why I feel, because they're too emotionally involved with what's going on in the world outside the league, and you know I'm telling the truth, because how many times has Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, and Jason Tatum been talking about the situation with, Black Lives Matter and all of that? I feel they're holding Brad Stevens hostage at this point, especially after Kyrie Irving's incident. The moment that situation came up, I felt, oh boy, question is now, what do you want to do? Think about it, guys. Let's just say, for argument's sake, Greg Popovich was available as a head coach at this point. Who the heck in the league? Who the heck would you choose over Greg Popovich, knowing that man's historic career? Or even Red Auerbach. If Red Auerbach, we would have resurrected him from the dead in this situation. Would you choose any head coach over him? Or Phil Jackson? I don't think so. But unfortunately, I think we got a couple of players who right now are holding this organization hostage to a point where if we don't give them the player that has the right color skin to basically show that this team is truly going to support the things that they basically want to support in the outside world, they basically are not going to support the organization itself in exchange in this situation, and it's going to permanently damage the relationship between the two parties. And so now Brad Stevens, Rick Grossbeck, and the rest of the ownership group are now treading on a tightrope in this situation, and they really got to do things carefully. So even if there's a better option in this situation, like I said, it could be Phil Jackson, Red Auerbach, or Greg Popovich, you still got to choose the guy that Tatum and them want in this case, all because you got to worry about pissing those guys off, in my opinion. And most likely, it's going to have to be somebody who's black, because right now, that's the only thing most of these players right now seem to give a damn about. Winning a championship is not the top priority for most of these players right now in the league. The situation is all about what's going on in the real world with the issue of black, the racial equality and all of that. And a few of our top stars, they're included in that situation at this point, which is why I have said it. The moment that happened, I knew it was coming from way back at that point. It was only going to be a matter of time, you guys. I'm sorry for anybody who may not like what I'm saying in this situation. You can call me a racist all you want in this case. I'm simply saying I never liked the idea of letting issues in the real world get involved with the issue of the sports world. Because to me, the sports world is a sanctuary. You want to get your head out of it, you want to basically get away from the stress of what's going on in the real world, turn on the TV and put on a sports game and enjoy it. But the moment you let the real world get involved with the sports world, you've lost that sanctuary in this situation. And that's exactly what the sports leagues have allowed, particularly the NBA this year. So we're being held hostage. And so I think it all comes down to not who Brad Stevens wants. It's going to come down to who do Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown want. That's going to be the key, which is why I think, you guys, the decision is going to be made before free agency starts. I think it'll happen before then, because whoever Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown want is going to want to have the right to basically make decisions on who they want to basically be a part of the roster, along with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown.
Andy, want to comment before me?
Yeah. I mean, I agree with Daniel. I think that there's been way too much politicizing of the NBA. Like, it's one thing to use your podium as a player to address issues. It's another thing to let it consume you, throughout the course of a season, to the point that it's interfering on the court. It's interfering with what are, essentially, coaching decision. It's a business decision, right? And to me, what I find ironic about it is when you're saying that I only want to play for a coach of a particular ethnicity, that's literally the definition of racism, right? I mean, could you imagine if that was reversed and say Peyton Pritchard said, and obviously Peyton Pritchard would never say this, but, Peyton Pritchard said something like, I only want to play for a white coach. Like, could you imagine what, like the type of, let's say, let's pick another white superstar, or a white star in the NBA, like, let's say Gordon Hayward. I mean, you could argue if he's a star or not, but let's say Gordon Hayward comes out and says, I really would prefer if they hire a white coach to coach me. Like, can you imagine what the outcry would be? What, like, they would probably, people would probably force him out of the NBA. But because it's saying that, we only want to play for a black coach, that's somehow more acceptable. To me, it's not. And those of you who know me, I'm Asian American, I'm a minority, and to me, racism of any type, whether it's how we traditionally think of racism or reverse racism, which is what that is, it's still racism. It's still the same mindset. It's still the same narrow-mindedness. And that, and that to me it's just as bad either way. It doesn't matter if you reverse the black and white roles. It's just as racist. It's just as bad, right? And we can't be equal. We can't have an equal country if we think that somehow we're going to get equal by reversing the inequality. It's just not going to happen. We achieve equality through people like Bill Russell, who faced that adversity, who was that, breaking the glass ceiling, who was that guy who broke the glass ceiling and faced the criticism and the adversity and the hatred and still did a good job. At least with the Celtics. Once he left the Celtics, things went downhill a little bit. But, and so I think that's something to keep in mind. And, you don't convince people, you don't change people's minds by insisting on promoting somebody based on their race. In fact, normally that will harden the opinions of people who are against having a black coach, because anything, they're going to just go and look at it and say, oh, he's a quota baby, right? Or he's there because of his ethnicity, not because he's qualified for the job, even if he is qualified now. So even if we get somebody like Chauncey, who's obviously highly qualified for this job, there's going to be people who are going to say that, oh, he got the job because the players just wanted a black coach, which diminishes Chauncey's, that coach's qualification. That's kind of the ironic side, is that, you actually kind of undermine the guy before he even takes over. So I'm a big believer the best person, whether it's a coaching position in the NBA, whether it's a job at Walmart or a job on Wall Street, the best qualified person, regardless of whether they're white, black, Asian, Jewish, Muslim, male, female, Wiccan, Satanist, whatever, the best qualified person for that job should get that job. And nowhere should that be more true than in professional sports, because the stakes that we're playing for in Boston, there's only one team that's going to lift that trophy at the end of the year. And if you want to be that one team, you have to have the best person in every single position, from your role players all the way up to the head coach and the GM. You have to have the best qualified person. And even then, that's often not enough. So, I mean, I really hope that we get the most qualified head coach. And personally, I think that, Chauncey or Sam Cassell is probably the most qualified for that job. But I don't think that we give this to those players either. I think that sets a dangerous precedent. And I think that we change the head coach and the GM. I think if they can't make it work this year, then we change the players, because, and I said this on the Facebook page. I said, you don't let young guys like Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown go without changing the head coach first, because it's easier to find a head coach than it is to find and draft a young superstar. That's just how that works. But now we've changed the head coach. We've changed the GM. So now if you can't make it work, now if it doesn't work this upcoming year or the next 2 years even, I'll give it 2 years. But if it doesn't work by then, one of those two or both of them need to get traded, because they can't make it work. And we're not going to have a revolving door at head coach because Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown can't figure out how to get along and how to play basketball as part of a team. If we can't do that, then we need to trade them while their value is high. And we need to get some superstars that can play as part of an actual team and see where that goes from there.
Absolutely, absolutely. Everything that you said, guys, I can sign about. We saw the issues that are, coming to the light, and we saw. We heard that from March trade deadline, Danny Ainge started to think or made the decision to leave the franchise. Now, I mean, about Brad Stevens, I must applaud him for this move because for the first move as general manager, or pardon, he is the president of the basketball operations of the Boston Celtics. So the first move as a president, Celtics president of Stevens, is really brave. I really think that to conclude the story slowly, that this move is good move. Many fans have been asking me in the messenger and social medias, what do I think? Again, as Andy said, to conclude, Kemba Walker was bad signing. Kemba Walker, I remember when we signed Kemba Walker, you guys were with me, Kevin, also. I mean, the fans, the one group of the fans wanted Kemba Walker as Kyrie Irving replacement, and he was probably the best. The best free agent available with the highest rating, to say that way. Not the best solution, in my opinion. Andy and I discussed back then. We had different ideas. We had Ricky Rubio available. We had D'Angelo Russell available. I still think we should go after one of them, and I still think that it would be better that way. But the Celtics organization, I think the ownership group, they wanted this star. Now, Kemba Walker is not A-level star, not B-level star, but let's say C-level star. Top 25, top 30 players. When we signed him, he was all-star. If I'm correct, 3 times all-star prior to the Celtics. Not sure about all-star selections. He didn't have a playoff record. That was the thing that worried me the most. He didn't have the good playoff record, 2 times losing in the first round. He didn't win the playoff series before Boston, and people are saying that he led the Boston to the last year's, to the Eastern Conference Finals 2019. This is laughable. I mean, he was not the leader. He was the third wheel. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum were the leaders, and 2019 we had Gordon Hayward. I really think that we could go to the finals then against Miami. If we had Gordon Hayward, we would have the chance, and the championship was really open that year. It was really pity. But to get back to Kemba Walker, he was horrible signing from a couple of reasons. First of all, contract. Okay, he was maximum contract. I cannot remember the exact figure, but the full max, 4 years. Danny may remember the full amount, 130 something millions, 36 millions. I'm going to make mistake, but never mind. In the last 2 years, I know that he has remaining 73 millions. This next season and the season after, he has remaining 73 millions committed. This is really too much. And why the Celtics didn't do the good job there? We overreacted to losing Kyrie Irving, and we signed Kemba Walker in order to remain the contenders or virtual contenders. That was the idea, my opinion. But on the court, he was never a good fit with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. I already talked about it in the first part of the show, because with the emergence of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown as stars, they wanted more field goal attempts and shoots, and Kemba Walker is taking away the ball from the hands of Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown and their shoots. So he was not good fit with them on the court. Even when he was healthy, people are saying and spinning 141 million over 4 years. Thank you, Daniel. So it is too much for that kind of player, and for Boston, because Boston is cheap right now, meaning that our ownership is not going to pay the tax maximum 10 millions above the tax line. That's maximum we are going to go. So if you have Jaylen Brown as maximum guy, or 12% less to max, Jason Tatum, full max, well deserved. If you have the third star maximum contract guy, 141 millions, and this guy is this guy is more injured than he's on the court, this is disaster. And he had valuable point in saying that we must question ourselves, was he really injured the last 2 games in the playoffs against the Nets or not? Could he play, or he just quit? He just said, I cannot play. He didn't even try. Okay. And I mean, he was healthy in Charlotte back then, yes, but he was undersized and he had a couple of injuries. And you must calculate, when you sign the players like that, the injury risk. You must put some clauses in there. We didn't do that. And we are paying the price. Luckily, we made a deal. Horford is easier to get rid of. He had not fully guaranteed second year, like Dennis said. The first year, even if he played like crap, or like Andy said, even if he plays bad, he will have influence in development of the young centers, Robert Williams, Grant Williams, and Moses Brown. He will help them to develop. And this is the value of Al Horford. He is the true leader. He's good locker room guy. Everybody in Atlanta and Boston were saying, everybody said that Horford is good teammate. He will help, hopefully, the Celtics to resurrect that locker room and atmosphere to be better. Andy mentioned small ball. Horford can play small ball. I think that starting lineup, we didn't talk about it, maybe in the next show. Starting lineup right now: Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford, Robert Williams, if healthy. It's very good. You want to go small, you put in one guard. It doesn't matter who it is. For example, if we re-sign Fournier, put Fournier in. Leave Robert Williams out. Horford is sliding to 5. Jason Tatum sliding to 4. Jaylen Brown sliding to 3. You put, for example, Fournier, or you put Naismith to 2, and Marcus Smart, and you got small ball. Also, I think that we will keep Parker. Parker can play even small ball 5. Why not? And if he is healthy, health is really issue for me about Parker. I don't know if he can stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, but he's not signed for huge money, he will be valuable from the bench. The discussion for the next shows will be, should the Celtics sign Fournier or not, with the exceptions that we possess? Should we boost the bench? I think so. And do not expect miracles from this team, but this team will be better with Horford. I think the defense, our catastrophical defense, will be better. And our offense, remember, after we traded away Tice, was really bad. We didn't have inside presence. I think if Horford is healthy, He giving us some kind of inside presence with Robert Williams, and we will not be the contenders. I don't expect miracles from this team, but I expect them to be competitive. And this is transitional period for us. I see that that way. And I mean, I hope that the next year's team will be competitive. I hope that they will give their all every single night. And bottom line, from the if you're the Celtics fan, that's all you want your team to do, to give their all they can. So, Daniel, what are your final thoughts to close the show slowly?
No, like you said, I feel that pretty much Brad Stevens took the first deal that would basically be available, mainly because there was not really going to be many offers available out there. Unfortunately, our radio show didn't manage to go through. One of the audios we would have been able to play if we had been able to go through with the radio show would have been the fact that many people were saying, obviously, Sam Presti. Sam Presti is the general manager for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you can understand, if you really know basketball, you would know the connection he has with Brad and the guys here in Boston. So, you can say Brad Stevens kind of took a page out of a Danny Ainge playbook, going to somebody that and basically ask them to do you a favor, as they say. And because OKC is not a team looking to contend right now, they're in the middle of a rebuild. That's why Horford didn't get to play so much this year, because when he did early this season, Oklahoma was winning for the most part. They had a pretty decent record during the time he was winning, and so they shut him down for the rest of the season in this case, to make sure they would lose the rest of their games because they didn't want to win anymore. So they had to tank the season. So, yeah, like you said, they were 11-14 with him, and so they needed to make sure they wouldn't risk, going any further. So 1-16 without him. So they had no choice but to sit him because they couldn't risk winning anymore. So going that route made the most sense. With Kemba Walker going over there, they're probably thinking Kemba's not likely to remain healthy. So by us, taking him, we get another first-round pick. That gives them Thunder. That gives them 3 first-round picks in this year's draft. In this case, and all we're doing is paying Kemba Walker, and most likely paying him just to sit on the bench because he's not going to be able to be healthy enough to play and really make much of a difference. And if he does, he plays. It's not likely to basically really be enough to make much of a difference in the win-loss column for us. That's the way they probably see it. So, for them, it was all about getting that first-round pick from us. That was the way they looked at it. That first-round pick was really what the Thunder wanted in this situation. And for us, getting rid of the contract. So I'm fine with it, you guys. I got to give Brad Stevens props. It was the right move to make at the right time because you got it done early, and now it gives you the flexibility. I know there were some guys on the audio that said, why couldn't you wait till after the draft? Maybe there could have been somebody valuable at that number 16 pick and all of that. I don't think so. In my opinion, if you don't have that first round pick available for the Thunder, maybe they're not interested in working with you after that in this situation because they're not the ones picking who they can get in this situation. Then you're the one picking it for them. So if you got an opportunity to get rid of him, get rid of him. The first chance you can get in this case. So it worked out perfectly. Again, we explained why for next season, Brad Stevens has an opportunity where he could end up maybe getting a max contract slot if he does things the right way this summer, or if Al Horford shows he still has some of that old Al Horford that we saw a few years ago here in Boston, you might just find a way now to stop Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo when you go toe-to-toe with them, which means now if Brad Stevens gets the right pieces to fill out the other spots, specifically now the point guard position, you may just jump ahead of those two teams and now be the second best team in the Eastern Conference this year. Be behind the Brooklyn Nets for all you know. So I accept it. I'm happy with it in this case. I got to give Brad Stevens props in this situation. Again, Kevin kind of questioned, did Danny Ainge have anything to do with this move in this case? But, I've heard that Danny Ainge is still there. He's still kind of, in the back seat, taking a back seat, but kind of giving, advice to Brad Stevens. So you never know if maybe he did help a bit. But I'm happy with it, you guys. I'll live with the results in this situation. Now my main thing is pretty much waiting to see what's going to happen with all these reports of all the turmoil going on in that locker room. Because the main thing is going to be which coach is going to be willing to come in to try and fix what's going on with that broken system in that locker room at this point. Knowing you got two superstars who may not be as close as everybody's claiming the last few years, and now you got to basically get the two of them to repair that friendship if that friendship is broken in order to basically move forward.
Two sentences before giving word to Andy for the closing. We must not forget the big picture. The big picture is with this move, guys, Boston Celtics is closer to making maximum slot for the third star. So this is our goal. Our goal is to create the cap space next summer or the summer after to add the potentially when the free agency class is very potent to sign the third star, and Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown will have the opportunity to recruit the stars if they want, because Tatum said, I'm not recruiting players, quote, which is strange, on the Olympics or the All-Star games. So this is the step towards creating the maximum space for the third star. This is our goal here. You must not forget that. To build a team, the contending team around Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. This is what we are doing, and I support that. About whether Ainge helps or not, I mean, maybe he's advising, like you said, maybe he advises that, but like I said, reports that I heard that Brad Stevens and Sam Presti are friends from the college days, and it helps that they had relationship before Brad Stevens became general manager. It helped those conversations, and like I said, personally, I believe that if Danny Ainge is general manager, this move would not happen, because Danny Ainge, there is absolutely no chance Danny Ainge to give away first rounder to dump the salary. That's it. And I'm expecting Tristan Thompson to be traded, and I hope it will be. I hope we will not give up too much in that trade, maybe second rounder or something. Andy, your thoughts?
Yeah, so I think whoever comes in as the head coach, like I said, is going to have that upward battle. I do think Ainge was involved in trading Walker because we knew that Danny Ainge wanted to trade him. Ainge tried to trade him for Jrue Holiday in the last offseason. So I think that's pretty. I think that both Ainge and Stevens wanted Walker gone for the same reasons that I never wanted him in Boston to begin with. It's just, they had to actually see it happen, I guess, to believe it. An interesting article that came up on SI.com is that a lot of the tension this year was between Stevens and Walker. And a lot of it was because Stevens was harsh on Walker for his bad defense. And so that's an interesting, that's an interesting thing. And apparently also Walker didn't like the Celtics fan base because of the fact that fans would boo the team when they were not playing well. And apparently, according to this report, the boos reportedly, quote unquote, pissed him off, right? So I think that just goes to show you got not just with Walker. And like I said, it just kind of goes and feeds into what I was saying before about Kemba Walker just being too soft to play for a contending team. Because, guess what? When you're a contending team and you're contending for a championship, there are expectations that you have to meet. It's not playing in the Charlotte Hornets where people are just happy to be there to see the game, because nobody expects you to go anywhere. When you play in a city like Boston, or if he goes to somewhere like LA, like the expectation, those are teams that are expected to contend. So with that comes the expectation that you perform at a high level on both ends every single night when you're a max contract player. So I think Walker is soft, and I think he wasn't prepared for that. He thought it was going to be like Charlotte, where Celtics fans were just going to clap and cheer for him no matter what. And that, that's not how Boston is, but I don't think that that's unique to Boston. That's almost any contending city. If you went there and you played the way he did in Philly or in LA, you probably get booed. That's just, that's the difference between playing for a contending team and a non-contending team. So I'm interested, so I think that it could go either way, because obviously both Stevens and Ainge wanted Walker gone. I think this is an exciting move for Boston, because I think I've said throughout this season on all these shows, I think Kemba Walker and his contract was the number one thing that was hamstringing Boston. It was keeping us from pursuing other options. It was keeping us from making the moves to be better. And even when he was because he was on that max contract, we had to play him. So it's handicapping us on the court too, because we basically are putting a turnstile at the point guard position. And Stevens didn't help by playing, by not playing zone defense and trying to hide Walker. But, I think maybe that's where some of the tension comes from, because Stevens expects everybody to be able to defend. So, and I think I think this is a good move all the way around. Yeah, I think one thing that was interesting is the same article said that when Gordon Hayward left, he said to Brad Stevens that you have to take control of this team if you want to win. And for Hayward to say that to Stevens, I think that really says something, because remember the Hayward-Stevens connection back to Butler, and so I think that just kind of reinforces everything that me, you, Daniel, we've been saying this for years, for the last couple of years, that Stevens doesn't have control. He's not holding people accountable, and that's causing this team to be a chemistry train wreck. And so all of these stories that are suddenly coming to light, it's basically just kind of verifying what we've been trying to tell people all along, and that people have been so resistant to hearing. But I mean, and so I think it's funny. I think it's funny because I don't think of myself as being particularly, a genius when it comes to seeing these things. I don't know how you guys view yourselves, but I feel like this was all pretty obvious. It was pretty obviously right there in front of you. For the last 2-3 years, we've been able to see this, and so I think that now all these stories that we quoted in this show, this is just showing, this is just all of this suddenly coming to light, and it's like. It's like when you go to trial and all of a sudden they have the video, the security camera footage right there in front of you, and you say, oh, wow, he really did it, and that's kind of what I feel like right now. So I think this is an exciting chance. I think Stevens in the GM position is better. New head coach, getting rid of Walker. I think that this is a real chance. This is probably I think, a pivotal year coming up for Boston, because I think the choices we make this offseason and how we play next year is going to decide whether or not Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown stay in Boston, or whether we are going to blow this whole thing up and go into rebuild. And I think it's literally the future in terms of the next 5 to 10 years of this franchise is riding on this offseason and what happens in the next upcoming season or two. So I think this is a very exciting time to be watching the team, but it's also a time when, it's going to raise your blood pressure a little bit. So that's really all I have, guys.
Okay, that's it. It was really fun discussion. We will be back, Daniel. Hopefully the next time show will not let us down. And we will be back, bottom line, this way, via video chat. Daniel will upload video chat on our YouTube channel. And on our pages will be available soon. Thanks for listening us. And Daniel, I hope that we explained the situation, and I hope to the fans that were asking us what was happening. That's why we did the show. I really hope that we explain the contract situation, why the Celtics did it, and why this is the good trade, in our opinion. So that's it from us, Daniel.
Yep. So again, ladies and gentlemen, next radio show, hopefully by then, Blog Talk Radio will have whatever's going on basically fixed in the situation. But the next radio show will be scheduled for Saturday, July 10th in this case. So we'll be back with you then. Of course, we'll be kind of looking into the situation of free agency, which would be about a month afterwards in this case. And of course, if there is any more breaking news, if Brad Stevens decides to do anything else prior to that, we will be back with you then on the video chat station here on StreamYard, obviously. So again, you can look for this video on YouTube within the next hour or so. Obviously, there's a potential it would still be available on Facebook in the Celtics Talk Radio page and the We Bleed Green Celtics Fan Forum group, as we have it on both pages. If you didn't get to see it from the very beginning, as we're already now over 2 hours in this case. So again, we'll talk to you guys all on July 10th, and it was a nice chat in this situation, and hope to talk to you again on the 10th of July.